So today I'm working on the white background instead of a black background. So now what would we do if we need a function from points? How would we find the linear function that satisfies the points given? So there are three standard forms of a linear equation that I'll write down. The first one is called the slope intercept form. The slope intercept form. And the equation to this is that we have y equals m times x plus b, where m is the slope of the function. This is the slope. And this we can call an offset. It is simply a number or a coefficient that moves the function up and down. The second form is called the point slope form, and it is written as so. So we have y minus y1, so that's the first point from which the function is drawn. Then we have also slope, which I'll also use in blue, x minus x1, and then end. So this is the point slope form. Now, how would we calculate these two forms? There's also the standard form, which, okay, just for clarification or just for the theory, I will also write down. So the standard form we get from the form number 2 or form number 1, and it is simply that there is an existing A, an existing B, and an existing C such that it equals to 0. But typically the functions, well, for our videos, we are going to focus on the number 1 and number 2. So let's start with 2 points. Let me choose a problem here. Let's go with the first problem where we have the first point given by 0 and 5, and the second point we have given as 2 minus 1. Now, again, this is the first point of the line, and this is the second point that we would draw and then connect. And it's very important which one is which. So, we also can see which one is first. The one from x has the lower x. So the first step I really recommend you is to write down what is your x1, what is your x2, what is your y1, and what is your y2. Now what does that mean? We know these coordinates. The first number is always x, and the second number is always y. So x1 equals to 0, x2 equals to 2, y1 equals to 5, y2 equals 2. Now this is a kind of preparation step. If you know how to do it from your head, this isn't really necessary. This is mostly for clarity. Mostly for clarity. Okay, so we have these numbers. We want to calculate the slope. Yeah, and I'll use a different color. I'll just use black. So the slope equation is always the change in y over the change of x. So that is how steep the function is. Now, we write down the equation y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Now we plug in the numbers, which we have. So, and I see that I reversed the colors, so I'll just reverse the colors back. So yeah, y is green. So we have 2 minus 5 divided by 2 minus 0. Okay? So equals, we get the bottom, the top, the nominator is minus 3, the denominator is 2. Yeah? The minus sign, we can pull, I like to pull it out of the fraction. So we see that the slope is minus 3 halves, or we can also write it as m equals minus 1.5 is our slope. Now, let's now get the first form. Let's go with the first form, which is the slope-intercept form right here. Yeah, so the slope is known. We know the slope. However, this offset is unknown. We don't know this b number. So how do we calculate the b number? So let's start out by plugging in our m. So 1.5x plus some unknown b. I do not know this number. This number is unknown. It's unknown. We don't know. Now, how do we determine the number? We plug in or evaluate the function at either point. You can choose this point and you can choose this point. It doesn't matter. Pick the one that you think is easier. Typically zeros or small numbers are easier. I'm going to pick the first point. So we write it as this. If you plug in 0, so x is blue, 0, the result has to be 5. This is true because the coordinates are 0 and 5. This has to be true. So I plug in 0, or evaluate the function at 0, which means minus 1.5 multiplied by 0 plus our unknown, which is b, equals 5. Okay, so we get an equation. This simply becomes 0. And where's 0? That's really, really simple because we see that the result is b equals 5, which is our unknown. And our final equation, again, I recommend to write it. You can write it as a fraction plus 5. So this is our function from our 2 points. Okay. So how do we get the other one? Well, the other form, which we see here, the point slope form is it's even easier. Is it really just you plug in what you need? So you need y1. y1 is right here. So we plug that in with a 5 equals, let's go with a slope. The slope is minus 1.5. You can always write it as a fraction, which I do recommend. And x minus, and we have to now pull the x1, which is 0 or 0 right here. And we plug it in right here, which is 0. Essentially, well, we can simplify, but essentially this is the final form that we need to get. And just for clarification, the standard form we would get by moving or moving the minus 3 halves x and also plus 5 onto this side. So the standard form would look something like this. So we would have 3 halves x plus y minus 5 equals 0. This would be the standard form. However, it is less commonly used in let's say, the first lessons of linear equations.